I was just a child when it happened. Back then, we lived in a remote village deep in the wilderness of northern Borneo. There was no electricity or running water, just dirt roads and thick jungles all around us. The closest town, with a hospital and shops, was hours away, reachable only by foot through a dense, unforgiving forest. Most of the villagers still believed in the old ways, in spirits, curses, and things that lurked in the dark. And in a place like that, you learn quickly. Some beliefs exist for a reason. One evening, a man from another village passed by our house. He carried his young daughter on his back, secured in a thin, tattered sarong that was tightly wrapped around his chest. The fabric, though worn with age, was carefully knotted at the front, holding the child close to his warmth, her small body nestled against his back, safely cocooned within the folds of the cloth. The girl was sick, had been for weeks, and he was desperate to get her to the hospital in town. There was no other choice. My father spoke to him and asked if he needed help, but the man refused. He kept his burden to himself, unwilling to seek help or disturb others. We watched as he disappeared into the jungle, walking fast, the daughter clinging weakly to him. 3 days passed. And then, as the last light of the sun faded, we saw him again, the same man, walking the same path back home. But this time his daughter was different. She was still there, wrapped in the same tattered sarong, but motionless, silent, unnervingly still. My father took a step forward, his voice unsteady as he hesitated before asking, "How is she? Is she all right now?" The man did not stop walking. His voice was hollow, empty. "She's dead." The doctor couldn't save her. Now, he was taking her home, to lay her to rest. His wife waited alone with their younger child, and he couldn't afford to waste any time. My father looked at him with pity, and offered to help the man, but the man refused. In those days, we lived by the old beliefs. Superstitions passed down for generations, and one of the rules was this: a man, the head of the house, must not leave his home after dark, leaving his wife and children unprotected. It was believed that if he did, spirits could follow him back, or worse, slip into his home while he was away. And it was forbidden for anyone carrying a corpse to enter another's home. They had to go straight to their own, for it was believed that the spirit of the dead would linger in the house, or worse, bring misfortune and ill omens to those living there. All my father could offer was a light, a small oil lamp to guide him on his journey. So he walked on, disappearing once again into the jungle. A month later, my father saw the man again by the river where they collected water. The memory of that day still lingered in his mind, the weight in the man's voice, the sorrow he could not shake. So, he asked, unable to silence the question that had been bothering him, "Did you make it home safely that night?" The man's expression changed. His eyes, hollow and dark, seemed to sink deeper into his face. He was quiet for a long time before he finally spoke, and what he told my father was something I will never forget. He walked through the jungle as fast as he could, carrying his daughter's lifeless body on his back. He felt the weight of her, but something else too, something cold, something heavy, pressing against him. And then, it started. First, it was the trees. Their leaves rustled, but there was no wind. Then, the air grew thick, heavy with a presence, as if unseen eyes were watching him from every direction. Then, the pulling began. Something tugged at his clothes, his shirt, his pants. Small, invisible hands pulling him, relentless and unseen. And then, his daughter, the tattered sarong wrapped around his daughter, suddenly twitched, as though something unseen had given it a sharp tug, then another tug, as if something were trying to tear the cloth from him, its grip cold and insistent. His breath caught in his throat. He gripped the bundle tighter, forcing himself to keep walking. He dared not stop. He dared not look, knowing that to do so might pull him deeper into whatever was watching. But the pulling didn't stop. First the sarong, then his cloth, a force, small but strong, clutching his ankle. Something was holding him back, as if the jungle itself refused to let him leave, its unseen grip slowing his every step. Then, a voice, software faint, almost carried by the wind. "Father, you're tired." His breath hitched, his grip on the bundle tightened again. "Put me down, just for a little while." The voice was faint, fragile, his daughter's, but she had been dead for days. He knew it. He'd seen her lifeless body with his own eyes, and yet the whispers continued. "Just rest, Father, only for a moment." The sarong around her shifted, tugged, his pulse pounded in his ears. He walked faster. "It's too far. You can't make it. Put me down." The jungle around him seemed to close in. The air turned thick, suffocating. His legs felt heavier with every step, as if the ground was trying to swallow him whole. But he never stopped. He never answered. He never looked back. He just walked faster and faster, until he finally saw the faint glow of his home in the distance. The moment he stepped inside, the weight on his back was gone. The whispers stopped. His wife came running toward him, tears streaming down her face as she clutched their youngest child tightly. He didn't stop to explain, instead pulling his wife into his arms, his voice gentle as he whispered, "It's fated. The doctor couldn't save her." He held her tightly, his heart aching for their loss. But he knew, deep down, that the body had to be laid to rest, not out of haste, but it was the only thing left to do. Without hesitation, without a moment's rest and food, he went outside. The earth was cold beneath his hands as he dug a grave not far from the house, and there, in the stillness of the night, he laid his daughter to rest. My father listened in silence. He nodded. In those days, in that place, stories like this were not unheard of. People did not stay out after dark. People did not enter the jungle without reason. And above all, when the dead whisper in your ear, you do not answer. You do not look back. I still remember my mother's voice, soft but serious, as she told us stories of the old days, the days before the roads were paved, before electricity reached every corner of our village, and before most people had converted to Christianity. Back then, there were things people believed in, things that were far too dark to speak of now, but they lived with us, lurking in the shadows. My mother used to tell us about it. Saka. I'm sure most of you haven't heard of it. It's not something you'll find in books or movies. It's a belief, a practice that was handed down from ancestors, spirits that would bond with people. A spirit or a force would enter your life, sometimes unknowingly. It would be summoned. A sacrifice of some sort would be made, and then that spirit would become part of you. But there a cost. There is always a price for these things. The Saka would grant power, fortune, knowledge, whatever was desired. But in return, the spirit had to be fed, a tribute of blood, an animal sacrifice, to keep it satisfied, to keep it from growing restless. The wise knew to make their offerings, ensuring the spirit remained appeased. But the fools, they let it hunger, and when the spirit starved, it would no longer settle for animal blood. As time passed, many people began to realize that the Saka was no longer practical. especially as the village grew and things changed. With the rise of Christianity, fewer people were willing to keep these old beliefs alive. The village was modernizing, but the fear of what the Saka could do never went away. When someone wanted to rid themselves of the Saka, they had to perform a ritual, a task, something to sever the bond. They would take a large seed of a fruit, like a durian seed or a mango seed, something substantial. It had to be big. Then they would boil the seed, render it lifeless, and carry it deep into the jungle with the Saka, this malevolent force that had attached itself to them. They would plant the seed into the soil of the jungle, all the while speaking to the Saka, commanding it, telling it to tend to the plant, to nurture it, and only to return once the tree had borne fruit. But there was a catch. The seed was boiled. It was dead. The tree would never bear fruit. It was a ritual that tricked the Saka. It was of many other ways to banish it, to tie the spirit to the land and leave it there. I've never been able to forget what happened that night in the jungle. It was a night that still haunts me, a night that makes me question everything. I thought I knew about the world around me. I'd grown up hearing the stories, the warnings about the jungle, about the spirits that roamed in the darkness. The elders always said it was a place to avoid, especially after the sun had set. But like most young people, I was curious. And when I was alone that night, a strange urge came over me to venture deeper than I ever had before. I didn't know what I was looking for. I just had to go. I remember it clearly. The air was different. The usual sounds of the jungle were absent. No insects, no rustling leaves, just silence. As I walked, the atmosphere began to feel heavier, like the very jungle itself was pressing down on me. I tried to shake off the uneasy feeling, but it only intensified. The trees seemed to close in around me, their branches twisting and creaking. And then, just as I began to question my decision, I heard it. A voice, soft and desperate, a whisper carried by the wind. "Help me." I froze. The voice came from somewhere close, but I couldn't see anyone. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up. I glanced around, but there was no one there. My heart began to race, my instincts telling me to turn around and run, but I couldn't move. "Help me, please." It was a woman's voice, trembling, filled with fear. I couldn't tell if it was real or just my mind deceiving me, but it felt real. Too real. Something inside me stirred, something I couldn't explain. I took a step forward, and then I heard it again. "Help me." I followed the voice, drawn by some invisible force. It was almost like it was pulling me in, like I had no choice but to follow. The deeper I went into the jungle, the darker it became. The trees seemed to twist more unnaturally now, their branches like claws, reaching for the sky. But still, the voice called out, growing weaker, more desperate with each step. "Help me, please." Eventually, I found myself standing in a small clearing, barely lit by the pale moonlight. In the center, there was a figure, a woman, hunched over, her back turned to me. She was kneeling on the ground, her hands pressed against the earth, as if she were struggling to stand. I hesitated for a moment, my heart pounding in my chest. Something was off. The air felt charged, alive with tension. But the voice had been so pleading, so desperate. I couldn't just leave her here. I called out to her, "Are you okay?" The woman didn't respond. She just stayed there, her head bowed. Then, after a long silence, she spoke. Her voice was shaky. "Help me. I'm lost. I can't find my way back." My chest tightened. There was something in her words that felt wrong, like there was something she wasn't telling me. "What happened? Where do you need to go?" I asked, moving closer. She slowly turned to face me, Her eyes, wide, filled with terror, locked onto mine, and for the first time, I felt a cold chill run down my spine. I'm not where I belong. I can't leave. Please, help me. Her voice was barely a whisper, but it sent a surge of dread through me. I stepped back, instinctively trying to put distance between us, but I couldn't look away from her. There was something wrong with her eyes, something unnatural. Please, I don't want to be alone anymore. That's when it hit me. The voice wasn't just asking for help. It was begging for me to stay, begging for me to do something, anything, that would keep her from being alone in the dark. But as I stared into her eyes, a horrible realization washed over me. This wasn't a lost traveler. This wasn't a woman in need of help. This was something else. I didn't know what it was, but I could feel it, deep in my bones. It wasn't human. I couldn't explain how I knew, but I knew. There was something about the way she spoke, the way she moved, or rather, how she didn't move, that made the air around her feel unnatural. The ground beneath me seemed to pulse, as if it was alive, shifting like something was trying to pull me down. "Help me," she whispered again, her voice low and pleading. The air thickened, and I felt a strange pull in my chest, like the very jungle was reaching out, trying to pull me in. I knew I had to leave, but the woman's voice, it grew louder now, more insistent, almost frantic. "You're tired. You've been walking for so long. Just rest here. Stay with me. We can both be here together." I tried to turn and run, but my legs felt heavy. My body wouldn't move fast enough. The whispering voice followed me, wrapping itself around my mind and pulling me back. I couldn't escape it. "Please, don't leave me here." I stumbled, nearly falling to the ground, but I pushed myself forward, my heart racing in my chest, my breath ragged. I had to get out of there. With everything I had, I broke free, running through the jungle, dodging branches, fighting the weight of the air pressing down on me. And still, that voice, always in the distance, always following. "I don't belong here. Don't leave me alone." I didn't stop until I was out of the jungle, gasping for air, trembling from head to toe. I never went back to that jungle, and I never will. But sometimes I can hear it, that voice, that whisper, calling me, asking me to return. To this day, I remain uncertain of what I crossed paths with in that jungle. But I know one thing for sure. It wasn't just a lost soul. It was something far darker, far more dangerous. And I pray I never hear that voice again.